Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly plan with me where I plan for March and also flip through all of my spreads from February. So if you guys are interested in watching my February plan with me, I will make sure to link it in the description box. So here is my February cover page. I did this very colorful and geometric type shape theme for February. It was kind of random, but I really like how it ended up turning out. So here is my February calendar. As you can see, I'd used a lot of markers in the background just to add some extra color and pattern, as well as over here I did this random like shape type pattern in the background with some stripes and like squiggles. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Here's my habit tracker and line a day, and here is one of my many weekly spreads. So I ended up using a lot of graph paper throughout this month, which I think was really helpful and also a unique way to add something different. I like using it for to-do lists just because it's nice and lined and it looks a little bit different than just a dot grid notebooks. So now we are going to begin on the March cover page. So I decided to do kind of a vintage bird theme. I don't know, it ended up turning out really well, but for my cover page I decided to paint this bird that is sitting on a branch with a bunch of different leaves behind it. I use lots of lighter colors and lots of different neutral colors kind of to make it look naturey. I didn't really know what to do for my theme for March, and just because the really the only holiday is St. Patrick's Day and I feel like I always do a green type theme, so I wanted to change things up, and where I live there is still snow on the ground, so I didn't want to do yet another snowy theme. Once my watercolors are dry, I like to go back in with a different marker just to darken some of the colors and to make the edges a lot more crisp. And I'm also using a white gel pen to add some highlights and also a fine liner to add some more lines and darkness to make the edges look a lot sharper. So that is what the watercolor looks like. I ended up scanning it on my computer and then printing out a different one, and I kind of dulled the colors a little bit because I found that it didn't match my theme or what I was going for. So it looks a little bit different, but I am really happy with it. I also added some text on the bottom and then glued that into my journal. And now on to the March calendar. So I started by drawing this out with my fine liner after very carefully measuring out all of the boxes so I didn't screw anything up. I'm also using this ivory colored paper to add some texture and another thing into my journal. I ripped that on the corner and then I glued that into my bullet journal. And I always like to print out a bunch of photos that I find on Pinterest, so I chose this one with a bunch of different birds on it, and most of the time I print the photos on photo paper just to make them shiny and I like the look of it. I'm also using this washi tape which I got on Amazon. It's this like kind of green olive brown color. For the title I'm using a Tombow marker and just writing out March in some calligraphy. After that, I'm taking another Tombow marker, which I ended up changing the color later, and making these headers for the different days of the week and writing that out with another marker on top. For the various days of the month, I'm using this mild liner in this like kind of dull vintagey green color to make little circles on all of the days of the month, and then I'm just writing the dates on there with a black fine liner on top. And I think that's it. I also ended up adding some more washi tape on the bottom. This stuff is also from Amazon. It's just in a brown color. And also adding some bullet points for my events and to-do section. And that is how the March calendar turned out. On the left-hand side of this spread, I have my goals and highlights section, and to the right I have my expense tracker. So I am using some various different colors that match my theme to make this like floral design around the goals and highlights or favorites section. So I'm just using different methods with my brush marker to draw different types of botanical designs. I didn't actually draw this out with pencil first just because that would be another thing to erase, so I just free-handed this and kind of went crazy with different patterns. And also over here I'm using a yellow marker, which I ended up changing to be tan because I thought the yellow didn't really suit the theme very well and I wasn't happy with how it looked. So I just continue to do that. I'm also using a mild liner like I used on the previous page and this Crayola Super Tip to add some little branches into the doodles. And then in the middle of the page with a Tombow marker, I'm just writing out goals and faves so I can keep a running list throughout the month. So on the other page, I'm using some ivory scrapbooking paper and just ripping that into a piece to use as my header. I'm just gluing this into my bullet journal, and then I'm again using the same green washi tape to add that onto it. I love the color of this washi tape so much. I think it is the perfect color for this theme. It looks so good. I'm really obsessed with it. Anyways, after that I'm using a marker to write out expenses at the top, and I'm just doing this in some simple calligraphy over here. And because I like to section off my expenses, I'm just using a marker to make 4 different categories. And I actually decided these categories at the beginning of the year just to better organize my yearly expenses. So I have food, house, school, and other. And I'm just writing that out in some calligraphy and then making a section on the right to put the total, so I can put the name of the expense on the left and then the total on the right, and then add them up throughout the month. And again, I ended up changing this yellow to a tan color because I think it looks a whole lot better. And that is how this spread turned out. And here we are at the last spread of this plan with me, which is my first weekly spread of March. So I'm just starting by playing around with some different scrapbooking paper, but I ended up going with the ivory that I've been using throughout the other spreads, which I'm very happy I did. And I just glued that into the corner of the page, and I chose this photo that I thought matched and suited the theme nicely, and I just taped that in with some washi tape. And after that, I went ahead and wrote my title for March. I'm using a tan colored Tombow marker. I did this in some calligraphy. And here I am finding another photo. This one's just really cute one of a nest of eggs, and I'm taping that in with some washi tape. And for each day of the week, I'm using this monoline cursive font in this green color, and I'm really happy with how the font turned out. I don't do this very often, but I definitely should because I love how it looks. a separate piece of tan paper, I'm just writing out this little to-do list, and I'm outlining that in a tan marker and just gluing that into my journal. So then I can just have a running to-do list for the entire week in one spot. And then I'm just writing out the various dates for this week in March, and that is how the spread turned out. I am absolutely obsessed with how this turned out. I normally say that I like how the spreads turn out, but this one is just so different, and I think the colors work together so nicely, so I'm very happy with it. So here is a quick little flip through of all of the March spreads in this vintage like nature bird type theme. So here's the cover page and the calendar and the goals, favorites, and expense tracker, and then the first weekly spread. So throughout the month I will continue to make more weekly spreads, but that is it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!